So, welcome to today's show. I am so excited and honored to have my guest, Paige Stapleton, who is a business coach. She is a sales strategist, but she is so much more than that. She is a Wall Street Journal bestseller. Book just went out this past year, so I'm so grateful to have our guest today, Paige Stapleton.
Welcome to the other side of the studio. Join us for authentic stories, expert insights, and a fresh perspective on wellness to guide you through the nuances of life's transitions, reminding you that every shift, every change is an opportunity for growth. Rooted in the timeless teachings of Pilates, we journey through the 7 pillars of a well-balanced life: spiritual, emotional, physical, sleep health, nutrition, relationships, and financial balance. Are you ready to embrace transitions and live a conscious, strong life? Hosted by speaker, author, retreat guide, and founder of Conscious Strong, Lauren McLaughlin.
Okay, so Paige, I am so excited to have you here. You know I adore you. You
Same.
know I adore you. And I know your story. And this is why I am so grateful that you're here to share how you moved to the other side of pain. You've been in a lot of pain and for years. And I have witnessed how it has impacted you personally. We're going to get to that a little bit later on, but welcome. Why don't you share your story?
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
Lauren. It's so great to be here. Thank you for inviting me
Of course.
to do this. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. 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 So just share with the audience how you were dealing with your pain or not
Yeah.
dealing with it.
Yeah. We're getting close to 4 years that this really started happening. And it was just this problem in my left glute, and it was my sciatic nerve. I kept diagnosing myself. So I self-diagnosed that it was my sciatic nerve. And it just became a problem where I was limping all the time and I couldn't lift my leg up and get in the car. And I drive a Jeep, so that was like almost impossible. And it probably took me even a year before that to even go and get some help. And I hired a chiropractor I did a whole 6 month. I'm going to get this fixed in 6 months. And I worked with her and it did help a little bit, but not like massively. And I had maybe a month left or something like that. And she says, I think this is your new normal. It actually makes me feel emotional because I'm like, oh my goodness, I will not be back here. Thank you very much. You're paid in full. You're good. But I don't live my life that way. There's no new normal. It's going to be the new normal that I choose for it to be.
Yeah.
That just began a journey of just, physical therapists, walking coaches, just all kinds of different healers, body workers. I was so open. I'm like, I'll do anything. And so I literally kind of bounced around with different people for going on 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a thank you to you, but you had been trying to recommend this wonderful chiropractor to me. And I believe I help chiropractors in my business, so I completely believe in chiropractors. I just hadn't had a good experience with this one chiropractor. So I was a little resistant. It took me probably another 6 months by the time you
Yes.
suggested him. And so I started seeing him. And by the 5th visit, I was doing dry needling with him.
Mm-hmm.
By the 5th visit, walking like a champ. Like I just,
So amazing.
yeah. And it's not perfect, right? I'm still in treatment with him. And so I
Yeah.
still see him, but it's literally changed my life. Like,
Yeah.
I went into his office the last time I saw him and just started crying
Yeah.
and hugging him
Yeah.
because it's just been life changing
Yeah.
because it stopped me in so many things,
Mm-hmm.
and when it was during the pandemic, it was like, not so, it's like, I'm not really going anywhere. It really wasn't,
Yeah.
infringing as
Right.
much on my life.
Right.
But even though I was in pain a lot of the time, but it wasn't stopping me because I wasn't going out anyway. But then, when we started, connecting more, I was like, then when I started going out, it was so normal for me in my house. So
Yeah.
to her point, this chiropractor, it had become my new normal.
Right. Yeah.
And and when I started going out, I felt like kind of that old lady who is limping, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, that is not who I, see myself
Right.
as.
Yeah.
No offense to anyone, but
Yeah.
I've got so much more, to give and experience and so many more people to help.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And so I am going to jump in
Sure.
and just so excited because I can see it in you.
Mm,
And I have the privilege of knowing you and have been, with you for a while and seen you through the pain and worked with you there for a stretch. And I know the difference that I am seeing in you.
There's a
And
little lighterness, huh?
a little, just a little bit, just a little bit. And we're going to get to that here in just a moment, is how it really does impact
Mhm,
your life
mhm.
professionally and personally, and the dramatic difference that it can have on, let's say, your business, just, or again, your relationships. But let's
Mhm.
go back to like what you said earlier, is that you were trying everything,
Yeah.
everything. And this is something that I see and something that I, guide in the work that we do here at Conscious Strong, is that I used to call it the promiscuous treatment hopping. Like you're promiscuously,
Yes.
like trying to find, and everybody jokes like promiscuously. Why are you saying that? Because it's like you're just craving
Absolutely.
anything that will help get rid of this pain, whether it's emotional pain or physical pain. And I know for you, you were dealing with so much physical pain, but it was impacting you emotionally,
Oh,
right?
I mean, 100,000%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And can you share how it was showing up in your personal life? Maybe?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, what happened for me emotionally, because it started to wear and tear on me emotionally,
Yeah.
obviously because it was frustrating that I couldn't get around. It was frustrating that I was in pain, but more of this like sense of giving up, of like it is never going to get better. Like I went to the depths often of just getting up in the morning and going, "Oh my gosh, another day." Like not looking forward to having the day
Yeah. Yeah.
come forward.
Yeah.
And I had severe doubt in myself
Yeah.
because I kept guessing. Everyone I talked to would say something different, and based on what their modality was. And so I was confused. I was confusing myself. I was losing faith in the community. I was losing faith in myself. So there was I mean, I have the most wonderful, beautiful partner on the entire planet, but I was still feeling very alone because as much as he would literally do things for me and really help me, we live in a 3-story, well, it's really 4 stories, but my our our bedroom upstairs is like this big, beautiful, expansive place, but it is on the 3rd floor, and the main floor is on the 1st floor. So there is a lot of, and my office is on the 2nd. So it really was just so frustrating, and I just started kinda bringing stuff downstairs, and, like, so my quality of life had really gone down, and and I'm building a business, like, in the
Mhm.
past year, I started my business last summer, and I'm trying to build it through this pain and self-doubt, frankly.
Emotionally, it can show up, no doubt, when we are in physical pain. So they go hand in hand. Now, as you start to move through all of these different modalities that you're trying and
Mhm.
finding, yes, oh, maybe I'm excited, this is maybe working. And then all of a sudden it comes back. And then you try another one and then it comes back again,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That is so frustrating for so many people and for so many ways. Can you express on that? Again, I'm thinking it's just expanding on what you just said.
Yeah, because what was interesting from my experience, and it's so great to talk about this. Thank you for this
No,
opportunity.
it's wonderful. Thank you.
Um, what was so interesting is I'm a very determined person.
Hmm.
Um, but I as I was going through these processes with different people, I was like, well, I would get discouraged, and then my husband, who is wonderful, And he is saying, just keep at it, keep at it. And I would just reach a point where it's just not going to work. So, and there were a couple of that I was just like, I'm not going back for the second run. This is not going to happen. It was almost like a start and stop because there were people who helped me to feel better. I would have a few hours. I would have a few days. I call them the golden hours or the golden days.
Love it. Yeah.
I'm like, and with this wonderful man that I've been working with, Dr. Mitchell.
Yes, I was going
Dr.
to bring up
Mitchell
Dr. Mitchell.
Osborne. I will praise his name to the highest. But with working from him, that became such a beautiful conversation. I had 2 golden days this week. I had 3, and then I texted him and said, I had 5 golden days in a row.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so to start, and I'll be completely honest. I'm just, and he knows this, but after the first session with him, can I tell the story?
You can tell the story. Can I first say I saw you after that first visit? And do
That's
you
right.
remember?
That's right.
I was sitting in the waiting room
getting ready to go see him as well.
with Brian, and you walked out, and I said, "Now, Paige, it's going to get worse before
Yes.
it gets better.
Yes.
Just remember that." And I told Brian, "Please let her know it's
Yep.
going to get a lot worse before it gets better."
Yeah.
And the next morning, I'll let you share.
Well,
Yeah.
during that night, it's a big open space in our bedroom, and so the bathroom is right there, and there's a little water closet. So I had to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So I kind of hobbled over there, went to the bathroom. When I came out, I don't know what happened, but I literally just couldn't walk. And Brian's over there sleeping, the dog is sleeping. And so I just start, I just said, I'm going to have to crawl to my bed to get into my bed. So I just went down and I just started crawling. And Bodie, our dog, who's an Australian Shepherd, he's so sweet. And he wants to just help me. So he kept coming
I'm
in
sorry for
between,
you.
in between my arms, and he was like putting his head on my chest.
Aw.
And I was like, I'm just trying to move, Bodie. So finally, my husband gets up.
It's like, are you okay?
He hears me, and so he gets up. But that was like the low. It was interesting because it turns out I'm with the right and perfect person to be working with. But that was the absolute lowest to be literally low on the ground and
Yeah.
trying to get somewhere. And my husband went out the next day, and he said, "This doesn't mean anything, but I bought you a walker." And I was horrified. And
Well-
then I was like, it doesn't have to mean anything. And I learned so many like mindset lessons during this process.
Yeah.
Because I could have really, made it mean something and come from this place of like giving up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've gotten to the place of a walker. Well, okay, here we are.
Yeah.
It was just like, this is a tool for me to use right now.
Yeah.
While I'm figuring this out. And thank goodness I stayed working with Dr. Osborne, because it was literally, and there was another little piece in here, because also, and I do this with my business coaching too, there's this inner work that you need to do, and there's the outer work that you need to do, the actual activities. And so this, to be fair to everyone, at this time, a friend of ours, actually, Diane, recommended a book to me. And I hope I don't get this wrong, it's called Healing Pain by Dr. Joe Sarno.
Okay.
And it's all about how pain is actually not in your body, that it's actually in your brain.
Yep.
And so his philosophy is to just talk to it and say, you know what, you're not real. And, when I first read it, I was like, okay, I can go pretty far in the woo world, but let me see about this.
Yeah.
So I started experimenting with it. And then I was doing the work with Dr. Osborne, and it was getting better. But I was still I had gotten into a habit.
Exactly.
You just get into the habit of like, this is
Yes.
how I walk now. I don't even think about it. I walk with my, foot to the side and point it in a little bit for protection. And you start really protecting it. You told me that. We had a
Yeah.
good conversation about that really helped me. And so I was kind of hobbling around the house. There's also little stairs on the main floor, so there's
Yeah.
just a lot of action going
Yeah.
on. And I just stopped and I said, "Oh," and I just zoomed out the door. I went out to our porch and I just zoomed out the door, and I was just like, "I have made a decision." And I teach this, in working with my clients.
Yeah.
It's like, have you really made a decision?
Yeah.
Because to that point, I don't think I really had made a decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that really started immediately started making a big shift.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, okay, this needs to work together, the inner and the outer. And it's not like I don't know this philosophy. I don't know this. I've been living this for the last 30 years of my life.
Mhm.
Um, but I really felt it so strongly in
Mhm.
action then,
Yeah.
and which was beautiful because I was like, how do I now incorporate this in all the other things that I'm working on, growing my business and, speaking and doing the
Absolutely.
things that I really want to do, write a book and all that. It is decision.
Yep.
It's decision.
It's decision. And, you hit on something just spot on is that we create these stories and we think this pain is real.
Yes.
And it's proven. Yep, so there's science to back
Yep.
that it is just all up in our head, and it
Mhm.
is. And so we get stuck in these stories, and it goes way back, and it's imprinted, it is in our DNA, and it takes so much of these different approaches and different situations and people and circumstances. And so this is why community is so
Amen.
important, right?
Yes. Yes.
So we have been a part of a community that has been life-changing, I think, for everyone in it.
Yes, definitely.
And all of those different journeys that we went on together that I had the
Oh,
privilege of
yeah.
being on
Walking
with
the
you,
Grand
walking
Canyon,
that Grand
baby.
Canyon and, well, crawling the Grand
Crawling the
Canyon.
Grand
So
Canyon.
I practically was crawling out as well.
Uh,
And Dr.
yep,
Mitchell, I praise him as well. Dr.
yep.
Mitchell will have to be I'll have to have him on.
Yes,
I
it's so
almost thought, why
lovely.
didn't I have him
Yeah.
here with us? Because he is that
Oh,
good.
yeah.
But it takes a community and it takes doing the inner work, as you're saying. And the inner work is far more important. And it's what so many miss because it's painful.
Mhm.
It's really painful to go in and experience past trauma. So I've had a client that
Mm.
she once asked me, I said, I want you to write about a past traumatic experience, maybe one of the worst traumatic experiences. And she kind of just paused and looked at me and was like, you want me to write about trauma? Are we supposed to write about like happy things?
Yes.
And I said,
You're supposed to get
yeah.
positive, right?
And so it does. It takes getting in there, and
Yep.
it's an ongoing journey. So it doesn't mean that it's not going to come back, the pain. It doesn't mean that there
Right.
are not going to be roadblocks along the way, and that is everything in life. So you've just hit so many of the key points that we practice here at Conscious Strong that I know
Mhm.
I've shared with you in
Yep.
terms of how it takes the spiritual side, which is in my view going inward, right?
Yep.
Then being able to dive into that emotional side and how do you understand and read what your emotional baseline is, because that's when you decide whether it's that fight flight, to be simple, like which way are you going to go? It's like, no, that didn't work, so I don't like you, I'm not going to the next session. But I'm so grateful that you chose to go to that second session with Dr. Mitchell because he
Yes.
truly he gets it. He gets it, and he can really help to almost summarize all of the different modalities
Yeah.
and experiences that you've had in being able to process through what you've been going through.
Yeah. And it really tapped in. I think the reason I was open to the book was it, during our sessions, he would talk a lot to distract me from needles in my
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah.
Mindset, mindset, mindset.
Yeah.
And he was teaching me the whole time.
Right.
I'm very grateful to have gone through the experience. I would love to have shortened it. But what I learned and what I've been learning, but what I really learned recently is so powerful. It will literally change my life.
Absolutely.
Has already.
Absolutely. And for the listeners, and there are many of them out there that are living in pain, and playing that story that this is their new normal. We hear it all the time, especially as we hit a certain age
Mm-hmm.
and where pain starts coming in, that we do not have to live with that pain. So, what would you say to those out there that are experiencing a lot of pain and feel stuck and don't know what to do?
Yeah. Everybody has a story, right? So I had so many people, this worked for me, this worked for me, taking this injection worked, and I went to this one healer and I went to this. And I think I think we know so much better. Well, I know we know so much better than anyone else does.
Mhm.
So we have to trust our intuition for starters.
Yeah.
Like we really have to trust ourselves and do our research. Like I ended up really, I know more about what's going on my backside than I know about anything other than business, maybe. I know muscles I never wanted to know the name of.
Yeah.
So I do think it's important because it made me educated when I talk to people. And so what they said to me needed to make sense to me.
Mhm.
And that is that is really what I found. This is such a testimonial for Dr.
I know.
Osborne, but it really was what I found with him because everything I was educated enough to ask the questions and to try to get the explanation of why I must have asked why a gazillion times.
Yeah.
And if you just go in just completely trusting of the other person, I do think that is something I really learned. It's like just be educated because, somebody told me something about discs and stuff like that. Another person said, it's don't let anybody I didn't even say anything to him about a
Yeah.
disc. And he said, he checked everything out. And he's like, don't let anybody tell you you have a disc problem because it's one of the most common things.
Yeah.
And that you hear
Yeah.
that's it's a disc problem when
Yeah.
most of the time it isn't.
Yeah.
I learned this.
Yeah.
So be educated.
Yeah.
Trust yourself.
Yeah.
And give it time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Give it time.
Yeah, and then speaking to the pain, and I'm going to go back in time in just a little bit. Well, not too far back, but in this past year. So we were in Telluride together,
Yes.
and if you don't mind, if I share just, and then I'll let you kind of share your experience of that. But from the work I do and witnessing what I saw in
Yeah.
that weekend that you had to go through, for me. And I'll let you give your
Oh, good Lord. I got the stories, baby.
You've got the stories. But for me, that was a pivotal point
Mm-hmm.
as an observer of your pain. And I'll let you share if you would like to share.
Sure. It's a
Because
little gross, but I'll share.
that's okay. I think.
Can I be gross?
You can be gross.
It's kind of a funny
I was
story.
actually telling the story even over this past weekend. I actually
Really?
was. I was telling the story. A little projection happened, so we'll let you know.
Okay.
And in all seriousness, that in looking back and now knowing you, that was a pivotal time.
Yeah, I would say that was really the true beginning of this exploration and this transformation that I was going through because starting my business by myself, because I've worked with other people for the last 15 years in combination, partnership, all that. This is the first time coming out this past summer that I'm doing this on my own. And it challenged me a lot. And also I have learned a lot that stress is what is a huge instigator of back pain. And so that started to click for me. And I knew I was I joined a program that was going to take me on a journey. We both did, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going out to meet this group. The group I had already met you because we live so close together. But most people I had not met, and I met people up. Met up with people before. We flew in. I'm just going to tell you my beginning of my journey because I landed in Denver. I met up with some people I'd never met before, just seen them on Zoom. And we get in the little plane to go to Telluride. It's super windy that day. And so they actually have us going into Montrose instead of Telluride. So we're going to go into Montrose and then we're going to take a little shuttle for an hour or so up to Telluride. Sounds great. We get on the plane and I'm sitting next to someone who is completely terrified, one of my fellow mastermind people. She is completely terrified. So she puts these big headphones on and is holding the arms of her chair. And I'm okay. I'm okay. But we started getting, and she was doing that before anything happened. So we started getting really, really bad turbulence about halfway through. And I can feel my stomach going a little bit, you know where this is going. And so, but I'm like, I'm breathing, I'm breathing, I'm breathing. Well, to make a long story short, it gets really bad. And I'm like, mm-mm. I turned it was obviously one of those little small planes with 3 seats across. The flight attendant is sitting just to my left in the back. And I turned to her and I said, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And she says, "No." And so she said, "There's a bag." And so I grabbed the bag and I couldn't get it open enough. And I just projectile vomited out on this poor guy. And I love this guy. He's one of those guys. He was just up a seat to the left. And he's that guy um, that I describe as like, he's been in Las Vegas for like 5 days. And so he's on the plane and he's like got his big hoodie over his head and he's just like, he's got his sunglasses on and I'm not saying that's what was going on for him, but what I'm
Yeah, I
talking
do
about.
know what you're talking about.
And so, and he just looked back. He had barely any reaction. He just looked back at me and I'm like profusely, apologizing to him. All he does is just like flick a little bit of it off of his shoulder. And I'm like, I'm so wow. I mean, just like emptied out. It was just unbelievable. The wonderful woman next to me, Liat,
Yeah.
she has no idea anything is going on. And when I started to get sick, I had my AirPods in my hand. And so I was reaching to give them to her so I could open the bag properly because I'm trying to open it with my AirPods in my hand. And then she finally sees what's going on and, tries to help me, but there's nothing anybody can do. So we just all sit there.
Yeah.
It was disgusting, but fortunately it was kind of by that point, it was kind of near the end of the flight. I get sick at the airport in Montrose. Then I just have to share this little part. We have to take this little shuttle and I'm in the shuttle and there's a couple of seats in front of me and there's a little jump seat to my right. And I'm just breathing, like hoping I can just make it through the windy Rocky Mountain roads. Don't you know that guy has gone into the bathroom and he has changed his outfit and he is sitting in that jump seat. He gets in and crawls into that jump seat. I was like, oh God,
Are you
no.
serious?
So I just prayed the whole trip, please do not let me vomit on this poor guy again. I can't believe he didn't even just ask somebody to switch with him or something. So anyway, so then I'm there for this mastermind, for 2 days and it's going to be this powerful teaching and all this and I'm so excited and we have a beautiful Airbnb mountain home. It's so beautiful. Liat's one of my roommates and another beautiful woman who was coming in later. And I literally like barely got my bags into that place and shut the door of my room and I just slept and tried to like live because I was still feeling so sick
Yeah.
and tired and exhausted. I mean, my eyes were practically bulging out. It was gross. And so, and then the mastermind was the next morning, and I went through them. I can't remember exactly the way it all went, but I went through the mastermind, and I'm really, I'm very engaged and involved, and contributing and all that. And I just sat back, and I was like, oh, okay. Okay, spirit, you're telling me I need to just sit back instead of trying to like show somebody who I am or prove my worth or whatever, which is my challenge around having the business by myself. And so I started putting some of those pieces together and then I was still really sick that night. And I just kind of went through like a feverish sweating it's time to do things differently. It was like when I spoke the next day in the group, I just said I've literally like had a rebirth.
Mhm.
Like, people do ayahuasca and
Yeah.
all kinds of things. And I said, I just had my ayahuasca.
Yeah.
This was
Oh,
my
that's great.
ayahuasca.
Your ayahuasca.
Yeah. So that was really the beginning. And I've had other experiences through this particular year of just letting out energy, sometimes in anger, which I'm not really a super angry person,
Mhm.
but it's just I've been stretched
Mhm.
this year
Yeah.
in just owning my 15 years of experience
Yeah.
and selling millions and millions and millions
Yeah.
of dollars worth of coaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and just it's about coming into my own and my own self. And the more I tap into that and trust myself and
Mhm.
acknowledge myself and own, who I am,
Yeah.
it changes what's happening with my body as well.
And it's been beautiful to witness that in you.
Thank you.
So, and I'm so grateful to have been a process of this journey, as well as to have
Yes, you have.
witnessed
You've been like
the,
hand in hand with me.
but to witness how that, that moment when I really got to know you and Telluride. And to me, again, as an observer, that was a pivotal.
Mm,
So even though it wasn't fun,
no.
ayahuasca, that is awesome. But it's like, but it takes going through that kind of pain, really facing the demons, those
Yep.
inner dragons, and that is literally what's coming out in any of those moments where we are that viciously
Yep.
sick,
Yep.
is telling us something. And that's when most people either curl up and move into victim, but you chose to not do that. And when you
Yep.
showed up that third day telling like, this has been just a rebirth,
Yep.
everyone could see
Oh
it.
my gosh. I got a $25,000 client just fr
Exactly.
from like a kind of a joint venture and, from somebody I barely even spoke with
Mhm.
there. I didn't even really have a conversation with, and I came back and we were like, "Okay, how about 25 for doing this?" And I'm like,
Yeah. You're
"Yes,
going, "All
please.
right.
Okay."
I'll take that. I'll take that." So that is the beauty of what opens up when you allow yourself.
And you're so raw.
You're raw.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for all the listeners, it's, that would be my, if I don't like to say advice, but it would just be really sit with your pain and have that conversation with it, as we said earlier,
Yeah.
because it does work. It really does work. And I've been having conversations. I mean, I have 5 kids. I've been through the whole gamut of having, these types of conversations of, moving into adulthood is not easy. And so I was just telling my daughter exactly the same
Yeah.
thing. I think even yesterday is, really sit with whether it's emotional or physical, and have a conversation. Just be present with it. Don't fight it. Don't resist
You
it.
can't run from
You
it.
can't run from it.
Mm-mm.
Ask, just maybe pause and ask, well, what is it trying to tell you? Right. And I think I saw that in Telluride. Now,
Yes.
let's move to the next piece because, part of the 7 practices that I guide here at Conscious Strong,
Yeah.
it ends with what I would call the financial health piece.
Mm.
I tie into, yes, personal, but it's also our business. And how is that showing up in your life? When we're going through these experiences, it impacts everything,
Mhm.
right? It
Mhm.
impacts your work. You're launching something so beautiful, and please tell all the listeners what you do
Yes.
because you are powerful and how it was holding you back. So that pain I could see was holding you back from having the confidence. I'll let
Yes.
you share. Just
Yes.
I'm kind of sharing now what I could see as, an outside observer.
The pain was absolutely holding me back because I couldn't there were times I just literally couldn't do things, but it was also just because it was affecting me so much emotionally, I didn't wanna do things, and I literally sometimes I just couldn't even think clearly enough to go, "Oh my gosh, I've gotta write this email, I've got to do this post, I've got to go to this networking thing," like, it all became like this huge really a burden, And I had to do that inner work, and I am very much into journaling and meditation, and even more so meditation because it's so powerful. But I had to do all of that, and I've even had people like we had a call a few months ago in the mastermind, and just the acknowledgement from other people of like, it's literally like the transformation we've seen you go through. It's like you're a different person. And I feel like I'm a different
Mhm.
person. And I've also stepped into my experience of selling $10 million over the past 10
Mhm.
years in coaching and helping a lot of people. And I'm a really good coach and I can really teach sales
Yes, you
from a place
can.
of heart. And it doesn't have to be so hard
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be manipulative and it can come from a place of love. And that is what I teach in my community of fearless rainmakers.
Love it.
And then I work with clients privately, building their business and supporting them in their sales and their sales teams. But I also do sort of an introductory sales boot camp. It's just a 5-day boot camp that is coming up in October.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited about it. I already have people. I haven't even really
Well, I'm
marketed it
there.
yet, but you're there.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And I will just share that I am so grateful to have been working with you. I'm so grateful that you've been on the journey of healing and getting through
Mm.
because there are so many of us that need you to be in your A game because we need you.
Aw,
I
thank
don't
you. That
sell.
means
You
so
know
much.
me. You know me. It's like sales, that is icky. I don't like that. I
I
can't sell,
know.
but you have opened up a whole new door for me. And so again, I'm going to go back to it's the power of community
Yes.
and how we all, whether it's like we band together and we come together and bring our arms around one another and embrace instead of resisting, that is going to help us
Mhm.
all develop whatever we need in order to move forward. So I am grateful for your pain journey
Thank you.
because I'm not saying because it's helped me. No,
Yeah.
kidding. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It is just that beautiful energetic exchange that is, creating health, wealth, and that's what we want. That is
That's right.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it is all of it is an inner and outer game. And
100%.
s-
Yeah.
so much of the work that I do with my clients, I mean, I'm going to say like 80% is what's going on in here for people. It's not that
Absolutely.
you don't know your stuff. It's not that you don't know how to sell. Yeah, you might need some structure to it and a little bit more like,
Yeah.
I want to change the paradigm of sales, like
Yeah.
completely knock it on its tush,
Yeah.
and to bring it all back around to the back end.
Yeah.
But
What a great way to wrap up this.
that old sales paradigm, knock it
Yeah.
on its tush.
And so
Yeah, and because I work with mostly women, and I want us to all be really thriving because I know what you will do with your money. You will
yeah.
support your community. You will support your family. You'll hopefully take care of yourself because it's part of what I talk to people about. It's very much what you talk to people about,
Yeah.
big time.
Yeah.
So it's just time. I mean, it's been time, and we've been working on it, and I'm part of that solution as well,
Yeah.
and that inspiration.
So excited for you and so excited for everyone else that gets to have your presence because you just are
Aw.
a star. You are.
Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for being here and sharing
What a joy.
your story and just telling the listeners how having a pain, whether it's physical or emotional, just might be telling you something, and it just might be that doorway. If you listen to it, if you have that conversation with it, it
Yeah.
just might be the doorway to something amazing for you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so thank you, Paige.
Oh, thank you. It was
I
so
love you.
fun,
Yay!
as always.
This is great. Love it.